welcome to Stemless Baseball Podcast with Erin Lowry. She's going to tell us a little bit about her background, where did she grow up, a little bit about her family, and we're going to get to know her. So Vanessa went to school to be a journalist.
But I am not a journalist. I was a newspaper reporter in college, and I really wanted to do that when I graduated. And I interned at the Cincinnati Enquirer and in Cleveland at a newspaper. And my first job, this is now in 2000, I graduated from college. And my first, or my highest paid job offer was $19,000 a year. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. So I went straight from undergrad into grad school and got my MBA, and then have been in marketing ever since. But this is truly my passion. Yeah.
So I'll let you take out the mic and tell us where you grew up and how you came about all this political stuff.
Yeah, this could be a very long story, but I'll keep it short. So initially I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I really am a Floridian. I've lived here most of my life, but I was born in Pittsburgh. My family on my father's side all still lives there. My parents got divorced when I was really young, and we moved to Florida when I was about 7. So at 7 years old, we moved to Sarasota. So I grew up on the West Coast with the most beautiful beaches in the world, and lived a very, wonderful life over there, raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs at a time just to raise me. I learned a lot from her, a lot about working hard, getting your education. My family's also, on my dad's side, I'm a first generation American. My father came from Italy. When they came to this country, they literally came with the clothes on their back. So they were working, doing paper routes, and started a restaurant business early on, and they're still doing that. Unfortunately, they work probably a little too much. They don't know how to they've lived that life for so long that they don't know how to vacation and how to take time off. So when I want to see them, I have to go visit. But we're all still very close. So was born and raised, born in Pennsylvania, pretty much raised in Florida. I met my husband in college at 19, and it was, I can't say it was love at first sight. I looked at him and I was like, oh God, this guy's crazy, but he's so much fun. And I was in a sorority, he was in a fraternity at the time, and we just kind of meshed, and we had the best friendship, and it fell into love, and I fell in love with his family. A quick little backstory, his family sells Christmas trees, and right in the beginning when we were first dating, he said, hey, I have to go home. You want to come down and visit me? My family sells Christmas trees. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's a little unusual. I didn't know anybody in Florida that sold Christmas trees. First of all, my mom was a single parent, so every year we were like, do you want a Christmas present, or you want to break out the old fake Christmas tree that you put together? So real Christmas trees, I really never paid attention to them most of my life. So I'm like, okay, I'll come down. Well, I didn't even know what I was thinking, and I pull up, and there's this magical wonderland of this, they're selling Christmas trees on their property. It was like Hallmark, and they put me to work right away, and it was perfect. So fast forward many years. I've been married now for almost 26 years. I have an amazing, incredible family with him. My in-laws are wonderful. They're a huge support system in this race that I'm in. So graduated college initially with an education background, elementary ed. I've always loved children. My main passion in life has always been making a difference. For me, that direction was in education with children. I always loved seeing that I could make a difference and see an outcome. After having kids, I knew that I stayed home for a while and kind of helped raise them. My husband was a fireman at the time, and we had a carpet cleaning business. So he was like, listen, I will work 5 jobs. You just stay home and do the kids thing and do the diapers and the baby stuff, and I'll work. And I'm like, okay, that's a deal. But then, after time, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to another human being, another adult, and mom groups are kind of getting, I was getting bored of those, and I wanted to be, I remember at some point, and if you have kids, you get to this point where you think, when you've been home for a while, do I still have a brain? Am I capable of doing that job that I went to college for? I remember that clear as day and thinking, okay, no, I could do this, Erin, doing that self-talk. So I was approached by a colleague at a school I was working at, and she said, Erin, you're so good with the special needs population. You really should go back to school for speech therapy. And it's like, oh, I have a brain for that too. I don't know. It's like, when am I gonna be able to do this? So I did. I jumped into that. I went back to school and got another degree. So I was able to get a degree in speech. Well, it's called speech communication science disorders. So it's working with language and speech therapy for in the pediatric setting. So I worked for years in the school system, private and public sector, in a clinical setting, working with kids. I found my passion being the ones that are the most challenging. Autism population, it just happens to be my favorite. Then again, I look at my life and I think every pattern of every area of my life has always been about making a difference, seeing that reward and seeing that I truly can change something and have a better outcome. So that was that. I did that for many years, and then our family started. We've been selling Christmas trees for all these years and building and growing, and my father-in-law built this ginormous 5,000 square foot barn on a big piece of property, and we moved there to do our business. And they were only going to use the barn for 3 weeks out of the year to sell Christmas trees, and it seemed like overnight my husband and I started a wedding business. And fast forward 5 years, we're like I think we're like the top in the Treasure Coast. We're busy every weekend from January through, thank goodness, like now. And then it slows down over the summertime. And so that here I am doing weddings. I own a wedding venue. Never in my life did I expect. I had no experience. We have to laugh because I'm like, I only have been to weddings, or I, did my own. But having an idea of like how to run a wedding venue, we were completely clueless. So how that led me into politics is an interesting story. Our family's always been pretty involved in getting other local politicians elected. My mother and father-in-law have been doing this for years, even before I met them, door knocking and out there helping getting people's names, out there. My father-in-law is a Vietnam vet. He is probably the most patriotic man that you will ever meet. He loves his country, more than you can imagine. You will never see him probably out in public without a Vietnam vet hat on or a Trump hat on, he wears that flag on him constantly. He's really easy to buy Christmas presents for. He's got flags and Trump stuff, memorabilia. So kind of followed along with them with politics. Did I ever envision myself doing something like this? Absolutely not. I was always a little more reserved, really comfortable with children. I've always been comfortable with adults. I think in a sense of communication, I always did well with parents. I had really effective relationships with my parents and clients, and I did the same thing in our wedding business. And I just was me. This is just what you see is what you get. I'm not, and that's not going to change when I get into office as well. I want to have that same, the same feeling to me that I do just walking in a grocery store. So on to politics. We host a lot of events for local candidates, kickoff parties, fundraisers, helping them to build their campaigns. And my father-in-law had always said, Erin, you should run for office. And well, at the time, we're building a business. I'm still working my speech therapy career full-time, running a business, creating it from the ground up, literally, like learning as we go. And we're there at every single wedding from the time it opens to the time it closes, doing everything on our own. Because, when you first start, you really have to be there to manage things. And I think that's kind of what I pride myself on, is that my husband and I have been so involved in that business. That's why it's taken off so well. So it's just never a right time for me to do something like this. My kids were very involved. I was very involved with them when they were in school and sports and dance. And I was always that mom that just wanted to give. I'm a giver. I'm a servant, whatever I can do to help. Well then, this past year, and let me rewind a little bit, just giving a little bit of feedback on how I can handle challenge, I can handle adversity. In the middle of building our business, about halfway through when COVID was here, we were very fortunate, didn't have to shut our business down, but only for that little bit of lockdown period. I think it was maybe only a couple months, and then we were able to reopen in June of 1st. Well, that following year, the Delta variant came out with COVID, and my husband got it. And we were here in the US, he was sick for about 12 days. He seemed to be doing well. We had a family vacation planned in Mexico. And we were all just, COVID had taken a toll on us. We're like, we're gonna go. He's, 10 days not contagious anymore. Well, probably we should have thought smarter and wiser that probably being on an airplane wasn't the wisest thing when it like attacks your lungs, but who knew? We just weren't thinking that route. So get on an airplane, go to Mexico. First few days, things are great. He's having a few cocktails, we're by the pool. And then I started noticing he wasn't feeling well. So we'd go back to the room and he started declining almost like overnight. And it got really bad to where his oxygen level, I looked at him, and until you're in the position when your loved one is like in severe trauma situation, I was like in shock. I didn't know what to do. And I thought, gosh, his skin almost looked like it's blue. And I'm thinking, there's no one possible way. So I called my girlfriend, and she came, and she says, oh yeah, Erin, you got to call 911. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is he gonna die? Never even crossed my mind. Well, sure enough, his oxygen saturation was at like 69. So he was close to death, throwing up blood. Got him to Mexican hospital there. That's a whole nother 5-hour podcast for this story. I journaled everything. It was all on Facebook, so I could keep everybody updated with daily posts of what things were going on. Moral of the story is we had to get Mexican hospital. Don't ever travel out of the country without travel insurance. First time I ever did it, thank goodness. But you still have to have the cash to be able to give them, or else they won't treat you. So I was swiping my check card left and right. 5,000, 4,000, 5,000, 3,000. It got up to 25 grand.
Wow.
And then my check card started declining because, when you're out of the country,
yeah.
Now I'm panicking because they're like, if you don't pay, we can't. They could have told me 100 grand and I would have, you can't argue with them,
Yeah.
So we got him life flight. They intubated him, put him on a vent in Mexico, and we got him life flighted back to Broward Medical. Broward Medical saved his life. Is on a vent for 7 weeks. He is a walking miracle. He's doing well, but that was the most traumatic thing probably in my life I've ever had to deal with. And it was just like adrenaline, pure adrenaline. I made it through, and then afterwards, it was like PTSD for me because I thought, what did I just go through? It was just, when you're put in a situation like that, you just go, especially when it's your loved one. I was still handling the business at the same time. He was in the hospital. I was still doing speech. I had to go down there every day. My in-laws drove me down. It was just a whirlwind. So if I can handle that, politics has got nothing on me. I can handle the adversity. I can handle, managing 5 million things at one time. I always say I'm good multitasking. I'm better with a to-do list of this than 3 or 4 things. I like to stay busy. I think when you get kind of stagnant in life, you get complacent, and then you just get bored. So here I am in politics. My husband's healthy. Our business is flourishing. I have the right people that work for us. I have an amazing venue manager that is like my right-hand girl. She is not only helping me with my campaign, but she helps with business, and so I can step away and be able to serve the community. And now I'm in a political race, and I filed in January, and it's been nonstop since then. And I can't wait for a vacation.
That is awesome.
That's a long story short.
What
The
a
short version
phenomenal
again.
story.
What was it? I'm just going to make it a little bit longer maybe,
Yeah.
but what was it that made you say, okay, this is the role in politics. This is the time. This is the role. Now is when I'm going to jump in and do this.
Let's see, a number of reasons. I know there was an election coming up for a seat that, in St. Lucie County, I know in Martin County's been to, all over Florida, we've seen such an increase, not only in the home prices since COVID, but our taxes and things have just become so unaffordable. And I've just sat back and watched and said, we have so many people moving here. We don't have a lot to offer. Why are we paying these high taxes? And not only the taxes, but I just want to be able to keep my kids here for longevity. They're 20 and 22 now, and I want them to have babies and be able to stay here in St. Lucie County, and their friends to stay there for their parents, and that whole generation of kids. You see that it's kind of disheartening to see families, or you have many families living in one home together right now, and I just decided, what, if there's no better time to do it than now, before I get too old and too tired. And I want to make a difference for this next generation, not just for the next like few years, but like for St. Lucie County, like for a long time ahead, for the next 30 years. And someone that's, person that's in office in my place right now, she's not looking for longevity maybe so much as just keeping it as, it's more of a job for her at this point because she's been around for a long time. And I think just overall, when you're in a position for a while, it's just time for change. And said, you know what, it's time for me to jump in and see what I can do to help.
Need somebody fresh in
Yeah.
St. Lucie County, for sure.
Absolutely.
Some people have been there for too long.
And that's with anything in life, like you just get comfortable and I don't know, local politics, we were talking earlier about, it's incredible, number one, the amount of people that are not registered to vote is shocking. It's mind-blowing. People that just don't think they're, and especially if their last presidential election, I understand how people feel like their vote doesn't count. That's for a whole nother podcast. But, our vote does matter, especially locally, because these are people that are voting on things that affect us directly. And, we can't complain, we can't do anything if we don't go out and vote for those officials that we want there to make the decisions that are best for all of us.
That's
So,
correct.
there I am.
One daughter and one son. Did they go to school here also?
Yes, ma'am. All their life. Our kids went to St. Lucie County public schools for most of their life. And then my son went to private school his last year, and then COVID hit, and then he did online. But my daughter is now at IRSC in the nursing program, and she's flourishing, and she loves it. And my son, he works in a trade doing like security work and home and audio theater stuff for high-end homes, and he absolutely loves what he's doing. He really would love to just work on a boat day in and day out and fish for, his livelihood, but we have to reel him back to, reality and like fun. So,
No pun intended.
great
Reel him
kids.
back.
Exactly. Reel him back. If you could fish every day, that would be ideal, but, he could always make money doing that on the side. But I'm very blessed. They've been, my driving force for doing this overall is that I care about them. I always thought, and as they've gotten older, I've asked them, hey, did it ever bother you that I was like so involved with everything you did? Because I know when I was younger, my mom she didn't have the time to be involved as much. But I know some kids are like, oh, we don't want our parents around. And my kids were always wanting me around, and they enjoyed, from what it looked like, they enjoyed having me around, and even all the way through high school. My kids never went through that period of time where they like didn't want me there. So I kind of feel like I owe it to them. Like, this is what I'm doing to give back to them and to their kids. And I did say, did you ever feel like I'm too much? Like, no, Mom, we love it. So, and I'm even my son, who's 20, almost 23. He drives around. He's a Ford truck, and he drives around with a big sign of mine, my face on the back. I'm like, okay, you're like, really? You're doing that? Like, I really appreciate
That's
it, but
awesome.
you really don't have to do that. Like, you put magnets on your car, and he's like, no, Mom, I don't mind. I'm like, that's really cool, because I don't know that I would have done the same thing. I would have been like one of those, been like, oh,
No, Mom.
my crazy mom or whatever. But my kids are very supportive, and that means the world to me.
I love the fact that you're doing what you're doing to keep the kids in St. Lucie County. Our generations to come, that is,
Oh, yeah.
because everything it is, our property taxes are higher than Martin County. Everything is,
Oh, yeah.
and St. Lucie is one of the fastest city grown in
I know we were
Florida. So how are we so much higher than everybody
We were
else?
such a hidden gem. I remember when I first came to this area, it was so quiet, and we just exploded. And I mean, it's great because now we actually have some decent restaurants to go to, and there's a lot more that I'd like to see, but I feel like there's just other ways. There just has to be other ways. I think there's some things I want to look into because I have the business mind. That I want to look into other ways that the county could generate more revenue, from a business perspective of not just collecting taxes, but, the Met Stadium's out. We have a contract where we can't use that facility, but there are other ways. There's some things I have in the works, some plans, some things that I want to work on, because that's the business I do, is creating events and doing, start thinking of things that we can do or make it more of a business, start bringing, things into the area that generate money instead of depend on solely on taxes.
They used to do events, but I don't know, maybe 10 years ago at the stadium, they used to do like Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, I think that with their contract with the Mets, when they did that big remodel, no one's able to touch it but the Mets for a significant amount of
That's
time.
not cool.
Yeah. I love the Mets, but I mean,
I'll go
like,
ahead and say it. I mean, we're in
I think it's like we gave them like $50 million, if I'm correct, the county. So,
wow.
so yeah, maybe we'll renegotiate if we ever have time to renegotiate that contract. Might be something to look into that benefits the people as well.
Right.
Or if not the Mets, we'll find something else. We'll find somewhere else to find a place or a venue to generate some more money.
And that new park, the Pioneer Park.
I know. I can't wait to check it out.
Have you seen it in the news?
It looks beautiful.
It is. How many
It's
acres?
right. I don't know. It's right along the waterway there, off of Westmoreland, and it looks beautiful. I mean, it's nice to see that there's, other than tradition, because everything is like out there, that there's some other things, in Port St. Lucie that we can offer families, because all the growth has been, specifically just out there. We used to live out there, and I don't even like driving out there anymore. The traffic is crazy.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's
so awesome. Well, I'm gonna switch seats with Vanessa. She's got some fire questions and some other questions for you. So we're just gonna swap